Welcome to the Treasury Update Podcast, coffee break sessions presented by Strategic Treasurer, covering foundational topics and core Treasury issues in about the same amount of time it takes you to drink your cup of coffee. I'll be your host, Jason Campbell, Business Development Leader at Strategic Treasurer. Welcome back for another great episode of the Coffee Break Session. I know that we've already had two great, wonderful episodes, talking about ACH and just kind of some formatting and how the data parts work. And I think this one is a really good topic to talk about, which is Same Day ACH. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And chatting with me today is Craig Jeffery, our managing partner at Strategic Treasurer. Craig, again, thanks for being on the show today.
It's a great day for a great podcast.
It's a great day for a great podcast. Absolutely. I love it. All right. So kind of continue with our flavor this past couple of ones that we've done so far. Looking forward to this one too as well. And I think it's as we get into talking more about payments, and speed is everything in today's world. How fast can I get it? The speed of light, right? So today we want to kind of dive into talking a little bit more about Same Day ACH. So Craig, kind of walk us through here. What is Same Day ACH?
So ACH, or automated clearinghouse transfers, are electronic transfers in the U.S. They use the clearinghouse network for moving funds, and that's a batch system. So it has historically started out. Everything was settled in 1 or 2 days. Typically, it could be future dated as well. Same Day ACH kind of breaks that mold. It's still batches, but it breaks the mold in that payments can clear the same day, still using I'll call it the legacy ACH platform, which is a batch, store and forward system with certain windows. All of those were geared towards the earliest would be the next business day. Same Day ACH moves that up, still uses that method and system, but speeds it up so that those transactions can clear the same day as long as you meet the different windows of time.
So according to Nacha, when you look at the growth of Same Day ACH, year-over-year growth just from 2020 to 21 was 73.9% in payments and 105% increase in just overall dollars. When you look at a total of 603 million payments for Same Day ACH, I think there's a pretty good demand out there, and it looks like it's continuing to grow. So talking about this a little bit more in depth here, what are some use cases for Same Day ACH?
Yeah, Jason, before we go into some use cases, so the growth is helpful. 603 million payments in 2021. That's just under 2 payments per person in the United States. So not massive numbers, a lot of room to grow. But you can see that there's, any payment method that's growing in high double digits, like 74% is experiencing some helpful growth. Yeah, so the use cases for Same Day ACH, because they're not instant, and it's different. Like on the consumer side, we're used to different payment methods. Like, you might use Zelle that settles through banks, and it's almost instantaneous where you can transfer up to a certain amount person to person, and then, eventually person to business as well. But this idea of being able to transfer on a same day basis, some of the use cases would be, there's a mistake in payroll. How do you get money to people? They're upset. They were shorted $50 or something failed. They don't get paid at all. So payroll fixes is one type of use case. Making smaller vendor payments is another one that occurs. Benefit payments, some insurance companies are using Same Day ACH to make those settlements. Same thing with like RTP. There's different payment methods that are closer to real time, closer to instantaneous. But this benefit payments are another one. The gig economy, people making payments, so things like using RTP or Same Day ACH. Those are types of methods that people can make payments where they're almost instantaneous if you hit the windows.
So obviously you have that kind of the same day versus something that batches or clears within 3 to 5 business days, or however it's set up to go. Are there any restrictions? Because obviously same day, you would think that it's almost kind of a little wary about how the transactions that occur. But I'm just kind of curious, are there any restrictions to it?
In most of these faster payment schemes, these systems that are set up that provide faster payments, either new payment rails or a method of delivering payments faster. This is the same payment rail, but delivering payments faster. In 2020, before 2020, the transaction limit was $25,000. In 2020, it moved from $25,000 to $100,000 US. So it was a quadrupling of the value. In 2021, the limitations were also time limit, but they extended the windows by 2 hours in 2021. And then in 2022, last year, the limit grew tenfold from 100,000 to 1 million. And so this increased the limits. I mean, all of these faster payment systems start low in terms of limits on value, and then they increase the value that can be transferred over time as the process becomes simpler, safer, more controlled, giving it a little bit of time to grow. You see that in the UK. You see that all over the world. You see it with Same Day ACH. So now it sits at $1 million. Transaction limits, when it's $25,000, corporations can't really use it for mobilizing their cash because, mid-sized corporation above, that's too small. When you get to $1 million, now that covers a much larger number of transactions or movements that instead of using a wire, you could use a same-day ACH transaction.
Which totally makes sense. I mean, anything that you have from a standpoint as a platform or structure that is progressive, is growing, right? You want to dabble a little bit here, dabble a little bit there, just to make sure that they're not things overlooked, especially when you think about large amounts of money and how fast everything can circulate in today's automated world. So it totally makes sense to have. You got to have some type of guard or something to make sure everybody's protected one way or the other, both on the sending and the receiving side of things, which totally makes sense. And so, and I was going back through our podcast and going back through the ACH conversation that we have, and I also look at, speed is everything in today's world. We want it now. And as I think about Same Day ACH, why is it not the sole standard for ACH transactions?
Well, to your comment, speed is everything. It depends. Speed is extremely important in certain situations. Like you really need something fast. You're doing a closing on a house and you're trying to pay the law firm, or you're trying to pay the mortgage company. Those transfers have to occur. Speed is essentially everything, or most everything at those points. Everything's getting faster, but not everybody needs instantaneous payments. So faster payments, now I can pay 3 times a day, or let's say with Same Day ACH, I can pay more quickly. There's value in that. To your question, I think, as you said, why is Same Day not the sole standard for ACH transactions? I think Same Day ACH is a very clever way of using an existing payment network, existing payment rails, and allowing it to move faster without creating a whole new payment rail, right? It's designed for batch and forward, overnight running, processing huge amounts of payments in a batch mode, not in a real time. You think of real-time gross settlement systems like wire transfer systems, like the Fed wire in the U.S. It's meant for processing payments really quickly, but it's really expensive, and it moves quite rapidly. Well, that system's designed for that. You're never going to get the low cost of a batch and forward system. And so this is just a clever way to use the ACH network in a way that's not overnight. So it provides a pressure release valve, I think, for doing these types of transactions without having to completely gut the entire system to operate differently.
Actually makes good sense there, and in my mind, I'm just like, how fast can I get my money, right? I mean, I think that's, but you're right. There's certain organizations, certain parameters and stuff like that. It's like, hey, let's take time. And imagine also too, like the higher the amounts, again, the more fragile you want to be with to ensure that everything is safe and smooth going through. So excellent points there. Well, thank you for joining me today, Craig. I really appreciate it again. And for our listeners, please ensure to tune in every first and third Thursday of the month for a new episode of the Coffee Break Session. As usual, if you have any comments, questions, or feedback, please send us a note at podcast@strategictreasurer.com. Until next time, take care.
This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasurer LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.